The pain in my calf snapped me awake like a whip. It wasn't the dull ache of a bruise. It was the kind of agony that made your teeth hum, like someone had taken my bones, crushed them, and shoved the splinters back into my leg just to watch me suffer. I sucked in air, shuddering, and forced myself upright. Silence. A deserted street. Noon light bleaching the pavement until it looked guilty. The scene was too familiar, too exact. My nightmare wasn't a nightmare anymore. I stared at the cracked watch on my wrist, the glass spider-webbed, the hands trembling toward the same minute they had reached in my last life. 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, Adrian Blake would appear at the crosswalk corner, sprint to me, and lift me like I was the only thing that mattered in the world. And from that day on, he would become my salvation. In my last life, I clung to that salvation until it strangled me. I swallowed hard, forcing the panic back down. I wasn't going to die today. I wasn't going to be carried. Not this time. Gritting my teeth, I planted both palms on the burning cement and pushed. My hands scraped, skin tore, heat seared through my fingers. I dragged myself forward, inch by inch, like an animal refusing to crawl into a trap. Blood leaked from the gash along my calf, smearing the ground in a bright, accusing trail. The sun pressed down on my skull until my vision wavered. But I kept moving, because in my past life, Adrian saved me and missed Celine Hart. He missed her last flight, missed her last chance to turn back. By the time he left the hospital and raced to the airport, Celine was already airborne, vanishing overseas and cutting him out like he'd never existed. That misconnection became his lifelong regret. A thorn he kept inside his mouth and bit down on until it festered. Out of gratitude for saving my life, I repaid him with 10 years of mine. I stayed. I worked. I burned myself into the shape he needed. I climbed from an unknown finance major with a pretty face into a top-billed star. The highest earner under his company. The girl he could sell to sponsors and brands and audiences like hope in a bottle. On the night I won Best Actress, he knelt in front of everyone, slid a ring onto my finger, and smiled like we were a fairy tale. Then, on a set years later, the safety wire snapped. I fell. Adrian reached me first. He always did, but he stopped so suddenly it felt like the air itself froze around us. He stood over me, staring down with eyes so cold they could have belonged to a stranger. "Mira," he said, voice flat. "Do you know my biggest regret in this life?" Blood filled my mouth. My lungs spasmed. I could barely see. Still, I waited, stupidly hoping love would show up somewhere in his face. "Saving you," he said, and losing Celine. The name hit like a slap. Celine. I hadn't heard it in years. I thought he'd forgotten. I thought time had softened it. He didn't soften at all. If we hadn't broken up, she wouldn't have married that garbage man abroad. She wouldn't have been ruined. Maybe I could have saved her. His jaw tightened, restraint trembling at the edge of his words. "I've hated you all these years." I tried to ask him why he stayed with me, why he married me, but my voice drowned in sirens and shouting. Through the red haze, I looked at the ring on his finger and finally understood the ugly truth. He tolerated me because I was profitable. A businessman always collects his debts. I don't remember how far I crawled on that street in my first life. I only remember my throat ripping as I called for help and darkness swallowing me before I ever reached it. This time, when my vision blurred, I bit my own lip hard enough to taste iron and kept dragging myself forward. A shadow fell over my face. A stranger's voice cracked through the heat. "Hey, hey, don't move!" Then the ambulance. In my last life, I died inside it. This time, I woke to disinfectant and white walls. My calf wrapped in a thick cast. A nurse adjusted my IV and snapped at my mother, Diane Cole, like she was tired of being polite. "Why didn't you give her a phone? She could have called for help. She nearly lost her leg crawling like that." My mother laughed awkwardly, eyes sliding away. She's a student. I didn't want her distracted. The nurse's stare sharpened. She's in college. Just say you didn't want to spend the money. Even the other patients murmured agreement. My mother's cheeks went blotchy. I'll buy her one when she's discharged, she muttered. I knew that lie too. In my last life, the hit-and-run driver turned out to be a rich heir, drunk and reckless. His family paid everything. They handed over compensation so big my mother's hands shook taking it. And the money didn't save me. It just bought Celine a brand new phone and an international call overseas because my mother was dating Celine's father back then, and kindness was a currency she only spent on people who could pay her back. I looked at the ceiling and felt something inside me go still. In the hospital haze, I heard a familiar voice. Is she awake, Adrian? I opened my eyes just enough to see him beside my bed with fruit in his hands, polite and warm, asking my mother about my condition. Then, like a knife sliding into a soft place, he asked about Celine. My heart didn't beat. It dropped, because he shouldn't have known to ask that yet. In my last life, he only found out about my mother's connection to Celine's family after Celine's death, after years of drinking and whispering into the dark. If I could go back, if I could save her. Now, that urgency in his voice wasn't grief. It was desperation. Adrian had been reborn too, and I was no longer his detour. I refused the settlement, flatly, publicly. The rich heir got punished. My mother lost her payout, and with it, the last bit of pretend affection she offered me. She stopped coming to the hospital and hired a cheap caretaker instead, as if outsourcing my survival could erase her guilt. The day I was discharged, I took the last $50 in my pocket and got headshots done at a tiny studio near the hospital. Then I found an email online and sent my resume. The reply came instantly, stuffed with weird emojis and chaotic enthusiasm, like the sender couldn't sit still. Rhea Knox. In the future, she would be the industry's infamous Ice Queen agent. Right now, she was fresh out of college with bright eyes and a grin that made her look like she'd just won the lottery. When she saw me, she clapped her hands. No way! You're gorgeous! You actually applied! Then her gaze snagged on my bandaged foot and her smile froze. What happened? Got hit by a car, I shrugged lightly. 2 months, I'll be fine. Rhea blinked. Then why didn't you wait until you healed to interview? Because your studio won't survive 2 months, I said, half joking. Her expression flickered, like she was about to laugh, then realised I wasn't wrong. In my last life, her little studio collapsed in exactly 2 months. She got swallowed by bad contracts and worse bosses. She crawled out of it years later with scars and a reputation sharp enough to cut. She tried to sign me then, right before I died. This time, I wasn't going to die before I could choose my own door. Rhea tossed me a script. I memorized it fast, performed the scene, and watched her eyes widen as if she'd just been punched by talent. You're a finance major, she said slowly. Why do you act like you've lived 3 lifetimes? I smiled, careful. Maybe I have. When I flipped to the last page, my fingers paused on the writer's name, Julian Cross. In the future, he'd be an internationally renowned director. Right now, he was just a broke screenwriter with a masterpiece no one believed in. Rhea, on fire with ambition, secured funding with a demo reel and pure nerve. Filming was set to start in 2 months, right when my leg would heal. When I went home to pack, my mother had already sold our house without telling me. I only took one thing, a stuffed doll an old neighbour had given me when I was little, the only company I'd had on nights my mother didn't come home. On the stairs, I ran into Adrian. He looked healthier than last time, like someone who hadn't wasted years carrying regret. Rumour said he'd been expelled for fighting over Celine. Rumour also said he'd come back and started a company that made serious money fast. He smiled at me, warm like the boy he used to be. Mira. His voice softened. I don't think things between us were ever this distant. I didn't stop. I didn't look at him. I walked past, as if he was just another neighbour and I was late for my own life. Later, backstage at a corporate event, Celine found me. She still wore arrogance like jewellery. She scanned my face, my dress, my shoes, and her lip curled. "So you've done a few commercials," she said, voice sweet with poison. "What makes you think you're qualified to be here?" I smiled faintly. "You've been keeping track of me. That's flattering." Her expression tightened, then she forced a smile. "Oh, you didn't know? Adrian just started a film company. I can tell him my new show needs a maid character. Maybe he'll cast you. You two were childhood friends, weren't you?" The word maid stretched like an insult dressed up as charity. Before I could answer, Ria's laugh rang out behind me, sharp and bright. "Wow," she said, eyes sweeping Celine with lazy amusement. "I've never seen someone try to hire an actress more experienced than herself just to share a screen." Ria hooked her thumb toward me. "Mira's already leading a feature film. Even if she played your maid, the audience would assume you're the supporting role." Celine scoffed. "A lead?" Her assistant snickered. "Anyone can call themselves a movie star these days." Ria's temper flared, but she inhaled and smothered it with professionalism. She leaned toward me and muttered, "Forget it. An agent reflects their artist. I don't bite barking dogs." She was right. Julian and I were still nobodies. No marketing team, no buzz. Our film was fragile, a match in wind. One wrong scandal could ruin everything before it ever breathed. I swallowed my anger, looped my arm through Ria's, and turned away. "Let's go," I said quietly. "Not here, not yet, but soon." As we walked off, I held my smile steady and let 2 words burn behind my teeth like a promise. Next time. Their laughter followed us down the corridor like cheap perfume, loud, lingering, designed to stick to your skin. To them, our retreat was proof. Proof we were weak. Proof we didn't belong. We hadn't even reached the elevator when a staff member came sprinting toward us. Ties from scoots, crooked, cheeks flushed, practically tripping over his own feet. "Thank God you're still here. Miss Eleanor." Lana stopped so abruptly I nearly collided with her shoulder, her brows knit. "Hold on. Who did you mean by Miss Elena?" The man blinked, then nodded fast, as if afraid the answer might vanish if he spoke too slowly. Yes, Elena. I just wasn't sure if she had time." He clasped his hands together in excitement. "We'd like to arrange an exclusive interview. Your new film has been getting rave reviews at preview screenings. Some seasoned critics gave it high praise. People are already speculating you might take an award at the upcoming festival. If we don't schedule now, we're worried you'll be too busy later." From behind us, a voice dripped with sugar and venom. "Aren't you two done acting yet?" Celine's assistant drawled. "Now you've even hired an extra. Why don't you keep going and say she already won Best Actress while you're at it?" The staff member froze mid-breath, eyes flicking between us and them, confused by the sudden hostility. He leaned closer and whispered to Lana, Are they talking about us?" Lana's expression didn't change, not even a twitch. Then she broke into the widest grin, bright enough to hurt. "Ignore them," she said smoothly. "Bitterness is a disease, and jealousy is contagious. We don't catch illnesses from strangers." Celine's heels clicked. She lingered like she wanted to watch us crumble. We didn't. 5 minutes later, I was being led into a private dressing room. Stylists swarmed, lights flared, brushes swept across my face like soft weapons. The door shut. The moment it did, leaving only Lana and me inside, she finally dropped her composed mask and stomped her foot like an overgrown kid. "I can't believe my luck," she squealed, clasping her hands. "My first client and you're already rising. Did you see Celine's face earlier? If looks could kill, You'd be ashes. I swear she was trying to burn a hole through you with her eyes. She leaned in, whispering like we were conspiring to rob a bank. Once you're famous and you start earning real money, my dream comes true. I'll wake up every day counting stacks of cash. Stacks, Elena. Stacks. I adjusted my hair in the mirror and answered calmly, as if she hadn't just declared war on the universe for me. I've already tasted fame once, I said. It doesn't scare me anymore. Then I smiled, slow and sharp, but knowing most of what I earn from now on will go into my own pocket. That feels amazing. Lana's laughter burst out, contagious and wild. She poked my shoulder. So, what's the first thing you're buying? A car? A house? I tilted my head, considering. A whole building, I said. Her mouth fell open. A building? I can live off rental income, I replied, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lana stared at me as if I'd casually announced I was buying the moon. Eleanor, you have terrifying dreams. In my last life, Adrian bought a building too. A significant chunk of it came from money I'd bled for him, paycheck by paycheck, contract by contract, smiling in photos while my soul slowly got taxed to nothing. This time, every cent was mine, and my start was different. The film I led didn't just win me Best Newcomer. It became a summer surprise hit, the kind people discovered and then bragged about discovering. Low budget, tight story, a suspense film that made Julian Cross's name echo louder than the studios expected. It cemented me as the new face producers wanted, because I didn't just look good on screen. I held it. Celine, on the other hand, wasn't content with being the nation's first love in interviews and variety shows. She wanted prestige, awards, the kind of roles that could rewrite a career. Adrian, reborn and armed with his future knowledge, made money fast through investments. He was still a shark in a suit, still calculating, still ruthless. And yet, for Celine, he threw money like he was trying to drown the world in it. He pushed her into a big-budget drama lead before she'd even learned how to carry a supporting role, like obsession had rotted the logic right out of his brain. Lana noticed the tension in my shoulders and patted me gently. Hey, the casting director reached out to you first for that drama, remember? I read the script. It's good, but money talks. Her eyes softened. Don't feel bad. There are plenty of great scripts waiting for you. I looked at her reflection in the mirror and said quietly, Great scripts are like chocolate. Lana blinked. Okay. Sweet for humans, I continued. Deadly for dogs, she stared. Then she burst out laughing so hard she had to brace herself on the counter. God, Elena, you're getting scarier in the best way. A moment later, Lana leaned closer, lowering her voice. Speaking of scary, I saw a post. People are saying you and Adrian were childhood friends, that you've secretly been in love with him. They're speculating you're losing your mind because he chose Celine. Is that true? I watched my own eyes in the mirror, calm, clear, not the eyes of a girl begging for love, the eyes of a woman who had already died once from misunderstanding what love was. When I was younger, I said, I might have had a crush. Then I let a small laugh slip out, soft as silk. But growing up in a house without love, it's easy to mistake someone pulling you out of the abyss for something deeper. I met Lana's gaze. Looking back, it wasn't love. Losing him didn't break my heart. I angled my chin, lips curving. Ever since I went crazy, I've been feeling more sane than ever. Lana gave me a slow, appreciative nod. That's my girl. Celine's drama flopped spectacularly. The production was beautiful. The script was award level. The cast around her was solid. But Celine's acting was like a weak nail in a perfect building. Everything collapsed around it. Adrian's money, earned by cheating fate with knowledge from another timeline, went down the drain anyway. He still tried to market her as A-list. He still tried to turn humiliation into resilience. But Celine wasn't satisfied being propped up. She wanted to stand taller than me. After I received my Best Newcomer trophy, I walked backstage. As I passed a dressing room, I heard the unmistakable sound of something being smashed, followed by Celine's tearful shriek. "You brought me here just to watch Elena win," she cried. "Just to let her rub it in my face." Adrian's voice was steady, but tight, like a rope stretched too far. "I brought you here to meet Director Hawthorne and the producers. Awards come from opportunities. Without them, no one wins anything." Celine sobbed harder. "Look at Eleanor. She debuted as a film lead, and here I am. I pulled strings to get you a lead," Adrian snapped, the restraint finally cracking. "I spent money I shouldn't have spent. The show failed. You're getting criticized non-stop. If you think I have so much power, tell me how I'm supposed to get you a lead role in a movie. If you were really capable," Celine spat, voice splintering, "you'd make it happen." A crash. The door swung open. I didn't have time to step back. Adrian stood there, trophy still in my hands, glittering under the hallway lights, and Celine's storm behind him. He blocked my path with one step. "You heard everything," he said, eyes conflicted. I smiled faintly. "I was just passing by." His eyebrow lifted. "Other people wouldn't catch the subtext, but you should, right?" I let out a light, mocking laugh, sweet enough to be mistaken for innocence. "Sorry, Mr. Blake, the soundproofing here isn't great. I couldn't make out what you were saying." "Don't play dumb," he snapped, cold and sharp. "You debuted early. Your agent is Lana Knox. Your director is Julian Cross. And now you've won Best Newcomer. Do you know what that means?" I held his gaze, unblinking. "It means I was lucky." His expression darkened. "It means," I continued lightly, "I didn't run into the wrong people along the way." I stepped around him and walked into the adjacent dressing room. Done with him, done with his tone, done with his need to make everything about himself. The poor soundproofing worked both ways. Celine's hysterical screaming leaked through the wall like poison gas. Lana walked in a minute later, eyes bright with gossip. "Who was talking to Adrian just now? Everyone else left, but he's still standing there staring after her like he lost his mind." My hand froze mid-motion, earring half removed. Her. The only person who spoke to Adrian was me. Something cold slid down my spine. Not long after, my mother invited me to dinner in a private hotel room with neighbours. She wore an elegant cheongsam, makeup flawless, the posture of a woman practicing a role she didn't understand. "Eleanor," she said, too sweet, "come sit with me. Let me introduce you. This is Mr. Vaughan, and this is his daughter Celine. From now on, we'll be one family." I met Celine's smug gaze head on. "One family?" I asked softly. "Have you and Mr. Vaughan gotten married already?" My mother's smile twitched. "Not yet. Marriage takes time. You know, choosing the right date." I set my teacup down with a quiet click. "So this isn't just a family dinner. What do you really want?" My mother glanced at Mr. Vaughan. He nodded faintly. She hesitated, then forced warmth into her voice. "You've always wanted to study abroad for your masters, right? Mr. Vaughan is willing to sponsor you. Overseas. A better future." I poured myself tea slowly, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. "There's no need," I said. "I've already been accepted. Full scholarship." My mother's eyes lit up. Too fast, too hungry. "That's wonderful. Such a great opportunity." "It is," I replied, sipping calmly. "I used to want to go abroad to get far away from you." Then I glanced at Celine and smiled. "But now I found a better opportunity." My mother's fingers tightened. "Elena, did she tell you?" I asked, voice gentle like a blade. "The movie I led just won Best Newcomer. In the past, that tone would have earned me a slap. Today, my mother kept her composure, like she was trying to pass as respectable. Our family has no resources, she said calmly. No connections. Acting is chaos. Studying abroad is safer, I smiled. Then why did Celine give up studying abroad and fight to enter entertainment? Celine's face paled. She slammed her palm on the table and stood. You're bragging about a low-budget film. What gives you the right to act superior? I raised a brow. Superior? I repeated, amused. Against you? I leaned back, eyes cool. With your acting, I don't even see you as competition. Celine choked on rage, words failing her. Mr. Vaughan patted her hand, then turned to me with a practiced businessman's smile. She has a temper. But she's not wrong. A girl without connections isn't suited for this industry. If it's money you want, I can give you $1 million. Just stay out of Celine's way. Stop competing with her for roles. Ah, so this was the real dinner. I turned to my mother slowly, my smile fading into something colder. So that's how you've always been. Then, to her face, whenever Celine has a problem, you throw money at it. You invited me here so I'd step aside. I looked back at Mr. Vaughan, eyes calm and cruel. I heard your business isn't doing well lately. Offering $1 million must have been painful. I tilted my head. But if you offer me $1 billion, I might consider it. His face darkened instantly. My mother erupted, pointing at me, voice shaking. You ungrateful! I laughed, not bitter, not broken, amused. Mum, I said softly, do you really think you're marrying into high society? I glanced at Mr. Vaughan like he was a bad investment. He's only interested in how gullible you are. Then I stood, picked up my bag, and walked to the door. At the threshold, I paused and turned back, smiling like a final slap. Oh, and one more thing. I looked directly at Celine. You said I'm competing with you for roles and resources. Have you lost your minds? Her drama tanked because her acting is a joke. The ratings are abysmal. They can't even recoup costs. I shrugged. Who's hiring her now? She doesn't even qualify to compete with me. Calling it competition is insulting to the word. Celine lunged, shrieking, face twisted. I closed the door on her fury and walked away. And that's when the war truly began. Because once you humiliate a woman like Celine in public, she doesn't come back with talent. She comes back with knives. Within days, smear campaigns flooded the internet. A shaky, blurry clip went viral, showing someone who looked like me shoving Celine's head toward a roadside ditch. The narrative wrote itself. Celine became the fragile victim. I became the monster, and somewhere behind the screen, I could feel Adrian's presence like a hand tightening around the story, not saving me this time, controlling me. If this keeps up, Lana said, voice tight as she paced the hotel room, the film won't even make it to release. You poured everything into this project. She wasn't wrong. The smear campaign had turned my name into a warning label. Sponsors backed away. Investors suddenly needed to reassess risk. Every time the film's teaser tried to climb, a fresh wave of paid hate would flood the comment section like sewage, drowning any real discussion. I watched Lana pace, watched the dark circles under her eyes deepen, and oddly enough I felt calm, not because it didn't hurt, not because I was invincible, because I had already lived through worse than a storm of strangers. I smiled at her concern. Worried about me? Lana stopped mid-step and exhaled hard as if she'd been holding her breath for days. Of course I'm worried. Do you think I invested my savings just to watch you get eaten alive? She rubbed her forehead. If I lose money, I can work and earn it back. But if you leave the industry, what will you live on? Look at Adrian. He lost his money and Celine dumped him. At the sound of those names, I picked up my phone like I was checking the weather. Top trending, Celine Hart's public announcement. An amicable breakup. The post was beautifully written, elegant, humane, full of those soft phrases that made cruelty look like maturity. The comments were flooded with mournful fans calling it a tragedy, calling it proof love can't beat reality. Lana leaned closer, lowering her voice as if the walls might be listening. There's no fairy tale romance. A makeup artist friend told me Celine left him for a wealthy businessman. I let out a short laugh. So she dumped him. No wonder Adrian had called me that night. Voice raw and drunk, like he couldn't decide if he wanted to beg or bite. He'd been abandoned by the woman he had rebuilt his life around, and suddenly he remembered I existed as if I was a spare oxygen tank. Not long after, Adrian's film company declared bankruptcy. Celine moved fast. She always did when survival required speed. She signed with a new agency, announced new projects, smiled into cameras like her heart had never cracked. But her first set under the new contract turned into a battlefield. Rumours spread that she clashed with the director, demanded script changes, demanded more screen time, demanded everyone orbit her. Without Adrian, there was no one left to translate her tantrums into artistic passion. The director kicked her off set. Celine responded with the only move she had left. She vanished, announced a temporary hiatus, married the businessman, turned her career failure into choosing love. The day her engagement hit the news, my mother called me, a voice I no longer stored as home, but as noise. A girl running around working all the time? She scoffed. How much can you even earn? Look at Celine. She's smart. She married into a wealthy family while she's still young, and your school scandal is all over the internet. How are you even going to stay in entertainment? Good thing Mr. Vaughan found you a match from a well-off family. I laughed, cold and precise. Just say it. How much dowry are you getting? Her voice sharpened into outrage. Eleanor, what kind of thing is that to say? I worked so hard to plan your future, and you think I'm doing it for money? I pulled the phone away from my ear until her shrill screaming became distant static. When it faded into something tolerable, I brought it back. Let me ask you something, I said evenly. Do you really believe I bullied Celine? There's no believing or not believing, she snapped. The video of you shoving her into the ditch is all over the internet. That was the difference between strangers and blood. Strangers who knew me defended me. My agent stayed. My director stayed. People who had watched me work, watched me bleed for craft, watched me refuse shortcuts. They held the line even when the world threw stones. But my mother, she was the first to call screaming at me for ruining her new family, demanding I go kneel and apologise. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't explain. I hung up. The silence afterward felt like clean air. Then I saw the notification on my laptop, and email I had been waiting for, like a door that had been locked for too many winters. Sender, Dawn Hughes. My throat tightened. My fingers trembled as I clicked it open. She asked to meet at a tea shop near our old school. When I arrived, it was before dismissal. Quiet, empty, just us and the hum of a refrigerator. Dawn slid a strawberry bubble tea toward me, then sat down slowly, as if her body still carried fear like an old injury. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't reach out all these years. She looked thinner than I remembered. The round cheeks from high school were gone, replaced by sharp lines and a tired kind of beauty that comes from surviving too long. I wrapped my hands around the cup. The sweetness hit my tongue and left a bitter echo. I should apologise too, I said. I didn't understand what you were going through back then. I shouldn't have argued with you. I should have asked more questions. Dawn shook her head. Her voice trembled. It was me. I gave up our friendship for money. I lost my best friend because of it. Dawn, I said, blinking hard, lifting my cup. Let's make up. Our cups clinked lightly in the air. For a moment we smiled like we were still 17 and the world hadn't learned our names yet. Then memory opened its teeth. That night outside this same tea shop, my hands shaking with fury, I'd snatched a phone from one of Celine's followers and found videos of them bullying Dawn. "We finally have evidence," I'd said, voice cracking. "We'll go to the police, we'll make them pay." But Dawn had looked away, not meeting my eyes. "Let it go," she whispered. "You're afraid of retaliation," I'd demanded. "They only pick on the weak." Then I'd said the line that haunted me in my last life. "After I shoved Celine into that ditch, they didn't dare touch you anymore. I'll protect you." Dawn's voice had been small. "I'm transferring next semester. Celine's dad already paid me compensation. I don't want to fight. I don't want this anymore. I took their money." I'd stared at her like she'd betrayed herself. How could you take their money? I hadn't understood then. Not really. In my last life, Dawn never came back. The next time I heard about her, she was gone. The truth came too late. Her mother had cancer. She needed the money to keep her alive. The psychological toll piled up until depression swallowed her, and one winter night she stepped off the edge of the world. That guilt had lived in me like a second spine. This time, across the table, Dawn's eyes were warm, alive. "I read all your emails," she said, smiling faintly. "You still write the same silly stuff. Seeing a bird in the morning, what you had for lunch." I laughed, embarrassed. "I thought you didn't read them. You never replied." "I read every one," she admitted. "I just wasn't in a good place. I didn't know how to respond." She reached for her cup. "But after reading your emails, I started taking my medication on time, following my treatment plan. I'm doing better now." I exhaled like I'd been holding a breath for 2 lifetimes. I typed my number into her phone. "Get WeChat," I told her. "Text me whenever, even if it's just one word." Dawn tucked her phone away, then looked at me seriously. "Why didn't you explain yourself about the bullying allegations? You don't seem like someone who would sit back and take it." Before I could answer, she added, quieter, "My therapist says avoiding things won't help. I need to face my fears." "Do you still have the videos from that phone?" She swallowed. "I want to press charges." I had kept the copies. All these years, I'd held the evidence like a sealed box, afraid opening it would hurt her again. I'd never expected my silence would become the rope they used to hang me with. That night, I went home and wrote another statement, explaining the ditch clip had been taken out of context, that what I did was self-defense during bullying. Within minutes, hired bots flooded the comments. "Nice storytelling, what a load of nonsense. Mad dog, quit the industry." Former classmates tried to defend me, but their voices were buried. Worse, fake accounts claimed to be my classmates, spinning lies until repetition started to sound like truth. Lana posted my university diploma, my awards, my academic records. It didn't matter. My public image hit rock bottom. Offers dried up, work disappeared. I slept for days, unbothered on the surface. Lana started joking I must be a capybara reincarnated, too calm for someone being burned alive online. But I wasn't calm. I was conserving, because panic doesn't fix anything. Strategy does. Then one afternoon, Lana's call ripped me awake. "Babe," she shouted, voice shaking. "Get online, right now. You've been vindicated." I opened my phone. Top trending. The full video. It began with Celine trapping Dawn in an alley, a lit cigarette pressed into the back of Dawn's hand, her entourage ripping at her clothes, pinning her down. Then me, storming in like a madwoman, grabbing Celine's head and shoving it into the muddy ditch. Only then did they release Dawn. In the video, someone filming panicked and hissed, "Do you know who Celine's father is? He's the school's biggest donor. Reporting this won't help." And my voice, cold as truth. "If the school won't do anything, we'll go to the police." Celine, face smeared with mud, screaming, "Do you even have evidence? You poor losers can't afford a lawyer. I'll ruin her life first. Let's see who gets destroyed." The internet exploded. The tide flipped so fast it felt like the world got dizzy. Celine's innocent victim mask cracked in front of millions, and for the first time, the public did what it always pretends it will do. It punished the person who tried to weaponize sympathy. Dawn sent me a short message. I shouldn't have been ashamed. Those who manipulate public opinion will eventually be destroyed by it. I stared at the words, then at the snow beginning to drift outside my window, cold, clean, quietly beautiful. And I thought with a strange softness in my chest, this time spring really will come.